Tired of procrastinating? Try this. You know that moment when you sit down to be productive, fully intending to start, and somehow 20 minutes disappear, your energy drops, and you haven't begun? Today, I want to show you a simple daily planner method that helped me to stop battling procrastination and start working with my brain instead. No hustle culture, no guilt, just a system that respects how motivation actually works. In this video, I'll walk you through how one daily planner page can reduce overwhelm, lower emotional resistance, and make starting feel possible again. This is especially for you if you're capable, thoughtful, and still feel stuck more often than you'd like. Procrastination is, in my opinion, a signal, and we're going to decode it today. I have created a free planner setup checklist. You can download it from the link in the description below. At some point, I noticed something important. I wasn't actually struggling with planning, I was struggling with starting. In the past, every system I tried focused on doing more and faster. None of them addressed the moment before action, the resistance that you feel, the emotional weight that you bear. And this system helped me solve that part. I started thinking of it as the gentle start method. Rather than pushing me into productivity pressure, this system helps lower the mental and emotional barriers so starting does not feel threatening anymore. Most people think procrastination means they are bad at managing time. In reality, it usually means the brain is overloaded. So when our to-dos feel heavy before we even begin, our nervous system is actually already in defense mode. The most important part of my planner is what matters most today. It's the daily priorities section. This is not a random long list of everything that needs to happen eventually. It is a short list, 1 to 3 items that genuinely matter today and for the task that I want to accomplish. Research shows that procrastination is closely linked to emotional overwhelm and decision fatigue. So, when we're faced with too many options, unclear expectations, our brain has to work overtime. Eventually, it taps out. And that's why we start feeling like we don't want to do it. We start avoiding it. And it's not because we don't care about it or that we're lazy. I think it's because our brain is protecting itself. Choosing a few priorities reduces cognitive load. Less load means less resistance makes starting feel safer. The moment I let go of guilt. I want to tell you what this looked like for me because this was the moment I finally was able to be kind to myself and let go of my guilt. I realized overwhelm, not a lack of effort, was running the show. I had waited for months for a musculoskeletal appointment. When things finally started moving for my treatment, I was I was sent a form that I needed to fill out ahead of time, basically explaining everything I'd been dealing with. And I didn't fill it out. Not because I didn't care, not because it wasn't important. I thought about it constantly. I would feel my chest tighten. My symptoms weren't simple. They had been building for years, and I had tried explaining them to different health professionals before, and every time it felt rushed, like I couldn't possibly say enough in a few minutes to be understood. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know what mattered most, and part of me was afraid that no matter what I wrote, it still wouldn't land. So instead of filling out the form, I kept thinking about filling out the form. The guilt was constant. There was this background pressure in my head all day. You should be doing this. But I couldn't move. And here's the important part. I didn't realize I was procrastinating. I just felt stuck and frustrated with myself. The shift happened when I stopped asking, why am I not doing this? And started asking instead, what feels overwhelming here? That's when it clicked. I wasn't avoiding the form, I was overwhelmed by the scope of it. I was trying to explain everything at once, all in one go, in one sitting. No wonder my brain shut down. So I changed the approach. Instead of filling out the whole form, I wrote down one prior, the main issue I needed the doctor to understand. Just that, not the full story, not the perfect explanation. And once I did that, the resistance dropped. I could start. One section led to the next, and eventually the form got done. That experience is exactly why this daily priorities section works. When you decide what truly matters today, you take something overwhelming and make it emotionally safe enough to begin. For me, this is Very helpful because instead of mentally cycling through everything I should be doing, I've already made the decision. It feels like a huge weight off my shoulder. My brain no longer has to scan for the right task. It just follows the plan I created when I am calm and clear headed. Write down one priority that would make the day feel meaningful if it got done. That's enough. For me, momentum does not come from doing more. Over the years, I've realized that it comes from doing what matters. Structure beats motivation every time. Motivation is unreliable, but I think structure is something I can rely on. But most of the time, when I'm procrastinating, I wait to feel ready before they act. And actually, the brain works in the opposite direction. Time blocking, the flow of my day. Now, this section of the planner page is where I gently map out when things will happen. Those are not vague goals. Instead, they are specific windows of time, 10 to 20 minutes or 2 hours of deep work. That's it. This approach, I've noticed that when I decide in advance when and where a task will occur, my follow through increases significantly. Specific plans reduce the need for willpower and they turn our intentions into automatic behavior. And I've also found that for me, time blocking lowers my mental clutter. I'm no longer holding my entire day in my head, which reduces stress and decision fatigue. When the scheduled time arrives, there's no debate, there's no inner bargaining. I simply begin. I'm not committing to finishing the task all at once at the same time. Instead, I am only showing up for the block. So start with one block, a short one, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15 is enough for you. For me, when I'm doing that, I'm not trying to optimize my life. Instead, I am creating a gentle entry point into action. If you're thinking of setting up your planner system, I've prepared a free planner setup checklist. You can download it from the link below. I make tasks feel safe instead of trying to impress myself with a long task list. The tasks we avoid most often are the ones that feel emotionally loaded. They're big, they matter, and they carry the risk of disappointment. Tasks that move you forward. This is a to do list, but this is not a traditional one. It's a list of micro actions. When I try to do that, I'm not trying to think of doing big chunks of things all at the same time, like write a chapter. Instead of doing that, the task that I choose to put on this area is the task of just even opening the file, finding the file, opening the document. Instead of working out, it becomes put on the sneakers. Large task activates the brain's threat response, whereas smaller actions don't. Breaking tasks down reduces emotional intensity and increases dopamine release with each completion. Dopamine does not reward success only, actually, it fuels motivation. Now, starting small creates momentum organically. So, when I'm applying this method, I stop asking myself to feel confident enough to start doing something. I focus on the next doable step. Once I begin, my brain naturally wants to continue. So, for me, starting is always the hardest part. Tiny progress is still progress, so one small action today is enough to keep the cycle moving forward. And this is really the core of the gentle start method. I'm not forcing productivity on myself. I'm actually designing a day so my brain feels supported enough to begin. Procrastination is an emotional experience. Avoidance rarely comes in the form of logic, it comes from discomfort. And ignoring this reality is why so many productivity tools fail. Checking in with myself. This space is unstructured on purpose. Here's where you can put on the things to remember. It's where anxious thoughts, frustrations, and distractions go without editing. I find it that externalizing thoughts reduces whatever I'm feeling, the anxiety, and it frees up my working memory. Labeling emotions also lowers the intensity. So a calmer emotional state improves focus and decision making. I find it helpful to acknowledge them. This act seems quite small, but it does reduce internal friction. A regulated brain is more willing to engage. I feel like I constantly need to remind myself that I don't need to feel great to be productive or to get things started. What I need is to feel grounded. So writing things out helps me get there. If this is resonating, make sure you download the free planner setup checklist. The link is in the description below. Progress needs to be visible. People who procrastinate often discount their own effort. We often remember what didn't get done and overlook what did. Today's win. At the end of the day, I write down one win. This is not a perfect outcome. I write it as an evidence that I showed up. The belief that you can follow through is one of the strongest predictors of future action. The recording wins reinforces identity and strengthens motivation pathways in the brain. When I do that, I stop defining the day by its shortcomings. I start building proof that I am capable, and that proof matters more than motivation. Every ounce of effort matters, especially imperfect ones. Your effort counts even when you think that the day has been imperfect. Actually, it matters, especially then. Once you understand procrastination as more of a brain based response, it's not just a personal failure, and also understand the emotions behind procrastination, everything shifts. This planner, the gentle start method, does not force productivity, it creates safety, and it normally helps me gain my momentum. Now that you know what I do when I feel like procrastinating, you might be thinking that there are so much planning information out there that you don't know what to do about it. So for now, just pick one tiny step, and when you're ready, meet me in my next video where I explain why I stopped following planning experts and what I do instead.